So in these next two sections, we're going to review these very basic stuff really quickly. The first thing is the Cartesian coordinate. So it's invented by René Descartes. And this is the Cartesian coordinate. And we remember that these two are the axis, x-axis and y-axis. And then the quadrants start from 1 in the top right, and then it goes counterclockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so very easy stuff. And you remember that ordered pair means the x, y. That is the coordinate, or we call that ordered pair. And so a way for us to plot the data or the points is something called the scatter plot. And we can plot that on our Cartesian coordinate. So for example, if we were to graph this export to Mexico, we have this table that has year and then the billions of dollars of exports. Then what we can think of it as the x-axis is the year, and then the amount of export is y, because y is a dependent variable, so it depends on x. And so what we do is we make XY axis like this, and we could do, let's say we start 2000 here, and then 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. So I'm going to write it this way so we save some time. And then this is 2007. And then it looks like the exports start from 200 and goes all the way up to 800. Since it's not at 0, I'm going to draw little squiggly line like this. That means we're not actually going from 0 to a certain number. We're going every, so we're skipping some numbers and then we're starting at 100 is what it's saying. So I'm going to do every 2 lines for 100 increments. So this is 400, 500, 600, 700, and then 800. And so this is very easy. You can think of it as this is the point 2000, 200. And then so the first point would be here. And here 2002, 450. 2003, 500. 2004, 600. 2005, 650, 2006, 700, and then 2007, 800. Okay, so very easy. It's just a very quick review on how to plot data. So related to the Cartesian coordinate is that if you have 2 coordinates and you want to figure out the distance between the 2 points, then you use something called the distance formula. And that formula is the distance is square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So you probably remember this distance formula. Very easy to remember because it is really just the Pythagorean theorem. So the next thing we want to talk about is Pythagorean theorem. So that means that is a squared plus b squared is c squared. So if you want to know the distance between the 2 points, then what you can do is, in a way, draw a right triangle and then figure out the A and the B. That is where they make a right angle, and then the distance between them would be that C. So I'm going through this really quickly because you already know these formula before. I'm just going to review. So if you were to find the midpoint between 2 points, or the middle between 2 points, then what you would do is x1 plus x2 over 2, and then y1 plus y2 over 2. Basically, we're saying if it's a point in between you and me, then we add up where we are, those coordinates together, and then find the average. That would be in the middle. Okay, so really quickly, let's try to see if we can figure out if this is a right triangle. So what would you need to do to figure out if this is a right triangle? Well, right triangle means that there's a right angle in there somewhere, right? So then there are a few things you can do to figure out if something is a right triangle or not. If something is a right triangle, it must follow a few things. First, you can say that it has to fit the Pythagorean theorem. So it must work with Pythagorean theorem because Pythagorean theorem is only applicable to right triangle. So that's one thing. What else can you do to check if something is a right triangle? Well, maybe what you can do is check the slope. So what do the slopes have to be? If it is a right triangle, then the slopes have to, or two of the slopes have to be perpendicular. And to be perpendicular, the two lines have to be perpendicular, which means the slopes have to be opposite reciprocal. Okay, of course, you can try other methods as well, but let's just try these two methods. So let's say we want to go with Pythagorean theorem. So that means we got to find A, B, C, or the three sides. From this diagram, we can see that this is a potential right angle. So then I would probably say this is A, B, and C like that. And then we would figure out the distance on each side and see if it follows the Pythagorean theorem. So length A. So if we want to figure that length out, we have to use the distance formula. So one of the point is 5, 4, the other point is 1, 0. So we can use the distance formula. So x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So simplify that. 5 minus 1 is 4, 4 squared is 16. And then 4 minus 0 is 4, squared is 16. So that is 16 plus 16, which is 32. So square root of 32 is, here, I will simplify this really quickly. So square root of 32, 32 is 16 times 2. So that is 4 root 2. All right, let's find length B. Same idea. Okay. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. This is negative 4 squared, which is still 16, and then 4 minus 0 squared is 16. So it actually ends up being the same number. All right, let's go ahead and figure out C. C is easy because if you look at the coordinates, the y's are both at 4, which means this is a horizontal line. And so what we need to do is just calculate or just find the number of units between negative 3 to 5, which is 8. So C is 8. Then what we can do now is figure out if this actually follows a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a is 4 root 2, b is 4 root 2, and then the question is, does it equal a squared? So 4 root 2 squared is 32. So that is 64, which is also a squared. So that means it is a right triangle. So this is a right triangle. Now, if you wanted to check the slope, then what we would do is we are trying to figure out if this is a right angle. And so that means we're trying to figure out if these two slopes are opposite reciprocal of each other. And so what we can do is, I'm going to do this in a different color. So let's say we're trying to find this line, the slope of this line, then we will use the slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that is 4 over 4, which is 1. And then the slope over here, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that is, am I doing this wrong? 4, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did this wrong. Okay. 4 minus 0 over minus 3 minus 1. So 4 over negative 4, that is negative 1. So 1 and negative 1 are opposite reciprocal of each other, and so that means they are perpendicular. All right, so very quickly, let's have you practice these 5 questions. The distance between 2 points, so use the distance formula, and 3 and 4 use the midpoint formula, and then number 5, you have to find the perimeter and area of the triangle, so whatever method is best for you. All right, go ahead and check to see if you got the correct answers. Now let's review equations of a circle. So if you recall, the standard form of a circle equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And if you recall hk, that was a very important thing all last year in Algebra 2. In a circle, the center of a circle is hk. And obviously we know that the radius is r. So let's look at this equation here look at this circle here. So if we wanted to write a standard form equation for this circle, we need 2 things. One is the center, which is hk, and then the second thing is we need r. So the center is at 4, 5. R is very easy if you just count it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you count the ones that's exactly perpendicular or parallel. You don't want to count the one that's diagonal. It's very hard to count. So in this case, R is 4. And so if we were to write a standard form equation, it's very easy. So it's going to be x minus 4 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals r squared, so 16. All right, let's have you try it. So if we have a center that is 1, 2, and the radius is 5, what is the equation? And then number 3, if you are given an equation, then what is the center and the radius? All right, did you get these right? Pretty easy, right? Now let's review really quickly linear equations and inequality. So linear equation means that the equation is in 1 degree, and which means there's only one solution. And since it's linear, everything linear can be in the form of y equals mx plus b. So linear equations. So which one of the following is linear and which one is not linear? So go ahead and circle, or go ahead and write down linear or nonlinear. And I'm going to take this one out because this one doesn't really make sense. So 1, 2, 3. Which one is linear? Which one is nonlinear? All right, so if you look at the equation, number 1 is linear because x is in first degree. 2 is you have the square, so that is not first degree. So nonlinear, and then number 3, you can see that if you multiply that together, you would get nonlinear. Now let's talk about how to solve them. So these are pretty simple. I think you should be okay doing these. So let's just have you try number 1. Try to figure out what x is. Okay, x is 5 over 2. So pretty easy stuff. Let's try number 2 because this one has fractions, so I just want to make sure that you guys all follow the same procedure. When we have fractions, the first thing we want to do is get rid of the fraction by multiplying both sides by the least common denominator. If you look at the fractions right now, we have a 8 and 4 in the denominator, so then the least common denominator would be 8. So then what we do is we distribute the 8 to every single term. And when I say every single term, I mean every single term. So don't forget that too. Okay, when you multiply over, this 8 cancels with that 8. So we have left with just 5y minus 2. In the middle here, 2 will multiply by 8, so we get a 16. And then this last term here, the 4 and the 8 will cancel, leaving a 2 because it doesn't cancel entirely. So then we end up with 2y. So now it's a very easy problem to do. I'm going to subtract 2y on both sides. And then add 2 on both sides. So we get 3y equals 18. So y is 6. Now let's talk about linear inequality. So same idea, very easy stuff. I'm just going to solve it with you guys for the first one, and let's practice again writing in interval notation. So this one, we want to distribute the 3. So 3x minus 3 plus 2 less than equal to 5x plus 6. Combine like terms. 3x minus 1 less than equal to 5x plus 6. And now what we want to do is I like to move the x's to the positive numbers or positive side, so then I don't have to deal with needing to change the direction. So this is negative 7 less than equal to 2x, so divide by 2. Negative 7 over 2 less than equal to x, and remember I said x always starts the conversation, so this is x greater than equal to negative 7 over 2. Let's say that you didn't do it this way. You actually just, so at this point here, you didn't do what I did. And, okay, let me rewrite it. Let's say you move the 5x instead, which is totally fine. You would get negative 2x less than equal to 7. When that happens, you have to divide by negative 2. And you know what happens when you divide or multiply by a negative number in an inequality. You have to switch the sign. So this is x, and this side is negative 7 over 2, but the sign switches. So make sure you do that. That way you get the correct answer. All right, negative 7 over 2 is negative 3.5, and this is a greater than or equal to, so we're going to put a solid dot and then point towards the right. What is the way to write this answer in interval notation? I feel like it's easier to look at interval notation in the graphical form. So you can see that we're basically saying starting at this point, go to the right. So that is my end point, the 7 over 2. And since I have a closed circle, then I'm going to put a bracket that tells me I include that point. And it's towards the right forever, so I'm going to write infinity like this. So that is the interval notation way of writing the answer. All right, let's have you try this one. Write your answer in interval notation and graph it. Okay, the answer is negative 2 to infinity. Don't include a negative 2, so that means you get a parentheses. And then we have an open circle on negative 2 and point towards the right. Okay, number 3, we have a compound inequality. So you basically have two inequality signs, which means that we have a and situation. We talked about this last year. We said that we could split this into two inequalities, one being a negative 3 less than 2x plus 5 over 3. And the other one kind of, we overlap in the middle one. So then it's 2x plus 5 over 3 less than equal to 5. But I remember I said last year that you're in honors, so you don't do the split. You should try to solve everything at the same time. So just a reminder, what you would do is, again, we don't want the fraction there, so we're going to multiply everything by the least common denominator. In this case is 3. So negative 9 less than 2x plus 5 less than equal to 15. And then whatever you do to one side, you always do it to all the sides. In this case, there are 3 sides. So we're going to subtract 5. Negative 14 less than 2x less than equal to 10. And last thing we're going to do is divide by 2. Negative 7 less than x less than equal to 5. All right, negative 7, open circle, 5, closed circle, in between. So then how do you write this in interval notation? Parentheses, -7 to 5, close.